Roll over.
Oh!
Hit him with it.
Stop!
Hit him with it. He already tasted
Stop
it. Stop. Roll over.
Okay, this video comes out of St. Johnsbury, Vermont on May 10th, 2024, when an officer attempted to contact a man for jaywalking and everything went sideways from there. Let's watch the video, come back, and break it down.
Excuse me, what's your name?
Huh?
What's your Taylor what?
Hey.
Taylor what?
Taylor Hay.
How do you spell that?
Why? What's going on?
Oh, you didn't use the crosswalk there, and the way you tried to avoid me, I think.
Use the crosswalk?
Yeah,
I'm not in the car. I'm walking.
No, you guys still use the crosswalk even if you're walking. Yeah, at the end of it. No, I want you to stop here. Being detained. Stop.
Why?
You're gonna get tased. You better not. Stop.
What are you doing?
Don't fucking move.
Why are you doing this?
You're gonna get tased.
Why are you doing this?
I told you stop.
Why are you doing this? I'm not doing anything.
Why are you running?
God, help! 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 Help!
Fighting with one.
Help!
On base.
Help!
I'm fighting on one.
Help!
I'm gonna-
Help! Help! I don't have anything, dude. I don't have anything. I swear to God, dude.
Stop.
I don't have anything. Stop.
You're being detained.
Stop, dude.
Stop.
Stop. Sean, stop. I'm not doing anything,
Stop.
dude. Please, stop.
I'm in the
Help!
on base street.
Help. Stop, dude. Come on.
Grab me, I'm gonna punch
I'm not doing nothing.
Stop.
Help. Help. Help, dude. Come on. Stop. Help. This cop's doing something. Help me. Help. Help. Stop. Stop raping me. Stop.
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 Get hurt.
Stop. Help. Help.
Roll
Stop.
now.
Stop.
Hands behind your
I
back.
don't have
You're
anything.
under
Stop. For
You're
what?
under arrest now.
I'm not doing nothing.
You're under arrest.
Help.
You're under arrest.
Stop.
It's gonna get forced.
Stop.
I'm gonna use force.
Stop.
Last chance to roll over your own.
Stop. I don't have anything. I don't have. Stop, dude. Please. 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 Help. Stop. Stop. Don't do it. Don't do this. Stop. Stop. Help. Stop. Stop me. Help.
Stop.
Help. Help.
Roll over.
Help.
Hit him with it.
Stop.
Hit him with it. He already tasted
Stop
it.
it.
Stop. Roll over. Your hands behind your back. Your cup out.
All right, so we just watched the video. A lot goes on in a very short amount of time. So I'll ask you, like, what do you think of the whole encounter itself?
So what stands out to me first is the body cam comes on and you can see the officer is wearing a short sleeve shirt, but he's wearing gloves. And with my experience, before I would ever contact somebody, I knew I was going to have to go hands on. I would always try to put gloves on to protect my hands. And in this case, he was already wearing gloves. So what we don't know is maybe he's had contact with this person in the past and maybe he expected him to run. Maybe another crime had occurred and he was looking for this person and was ready to actually grab him. But what stood out to me is he was wearing gloves.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, he stops the guy. He's saying that he was jaywalking. And if you look at the map of where this occurred, other people have done videos on this. You know, one could argue that it may not be within the legal realms of actually jaywalking. So nonetheless, he does stop him. In the officer's frame of mind, he feels that he has enough to detain him, identify the guy, and from there, it goes downhill. So the guy doesn't want to, you know, provide this officer any of his information. The officer then tries to place him under arrest, I guess, for not going with the program. That's when a scuffle happens. And, you know, I don't know. It seems like, first of all, when the officer parked his patrol car, like, let's just talk about that real quick. He actually pulls into a tunnel and then gets out of his car while in the tunnel and then backtracks to go contact the guy. I don't know that I would park in a tunnel. I mean, you're kind of confining yourself in a small space if that guy tried to rush at you, or who knows, right? Plus, you're now, I would assume that tunnel is used for traffic to come, either direction, and so you're blocking the entire road now, which ultimately the cop does need backup. So that may play a small part of that, but when he does contact him, I don't know. These guys end up going to the ground, and it's obvious during this struggle as we watch clips of this camera, the cop is on the radio. He's, I think, trying to pin him down. It's kind of hard to see. The guy's on his back. He's doing a whole lot of yelling, not fighting the officer, but he's definitely actively resisting. He's resisting the arrest. He's not complying with them. He's not throwing any punches or anything at this point. He's kind of just laying there yelling and screaming for help.
It is weird behavior because you're right. He is resisting arrest. He's not complying with the officer's orders, but he's not trying to fight the officer, and he's not trying to get up and get away. It's odd behavior,
which happens a lot. Most of the time, more than 90% of the time, when people, they don't try to fight the cops generally per se. They try to get away from the cops, or they resist you to get away. It doesn't happen that often where people actually start swinging on you and
rare.
actively fight you. That is pretty rare, but nonetheless, he's resisting. So what the officer's on his radio. One thing that I noted to point out is he ends up dropping his radio on the ground, and you can see in this video the radio is on the ground. So I'm not sure how that happened, how it came out of his vest. You can see in the video the suspect actually reaches up, grabs the officer's taser from his vest, which also tells me it could not have been secured, or maybe the officer had unclipped it, trying to use it, didn't pull it out himself, but then the suspect quickly grabs it from him and actually tases the cop with his own taser.
Yeah.
That in and of itself right there, that is a lethal encounter. I mean, if someone points a taser at you, it is justifiable to use lethal force, because if those probes or taser makes contact with the officer, it can completely disable the cop for minimum 5 seconds. And that would give, a bad guy enough time to either go for your weapon, go for his own weapon should they have one. That is a super bad situation to be in as a cop, very vulnerable. So
I noticed that his radio did fall out, and it seemed like he was holding the suspect's hand or had his hand on his stomach at some point near his feet, which was a very uncomfortable position for me to watch him standing in, because that suspect, if he wanted to do a real hard up kick, he could have kicked him or kicked the officer's knee.
Yeah.
So I think the stance and where he was not the greatest position. I would definitely move off to the side and try and at least control him at that point. But you're right. His taser didn't seem like it was secure. I mean, that suspect unholstered that thing immediately.
Yeah, he got that thing quick.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, it was actually very fast.
So the suspect does fire the taser at him. It does strike the officer. The deputy or the officer actually quickly grabs it back from the suspect at this point, and now he's got it back in his control. But so that was a quick transition of how that happened. I would say once the officer gets that taser back in his possession, I mean, it's no longer going to be a lethal encounter at this point. He has that taser back. But we talk about all the time, like if you're a cop and you're having to go hands-on with somebody and you're not confident with either your fighting skills, grappling skills, in this case, and in most cases, that when you do get into confrontations with people, they usually end up on the ground. And if you're not confident being able to control somebody by yourself, I mean, I don't even know why you would want to go hands-on with somebody at that point. Like if someone's not cooperating with you, I'll stand there all day and get on the radio and say, hey, I need cover, whether it's code 3, whatever. But if you're not confident in those skills, then you probably shouldn't be going hands-on with people, because in this case, it seems like the officer is a fit guy, but he didn't attempt to do any type of like ground control over this dude. And I mean, gave him full accessibility to his own weapons. So
he did. When he took off running, he ended up chasing him and grabbed him by the backpack, and then he ended up going to the ground. And you're right, he never even, at that point, I would have gone to the ground with that suspect to take control of him and to handcuff him. And he never did that. It's almost like he didn't want the encounter to go physical, and he just wanted the suspect to put his hands behind his back and clip the handcuffs on.
Yeah, which didn't happen.
No,
yeah.
It didn't.
So I would say if I'm in that situation, which I have been many times, I'm going to mount somebody and get you in a controlled position where if I can't effect the arrest by myself, I'm going to put my body weight on you and put you in a position where you can't do anything. I may not be able to do anything, but at least I have control over you, and I'm waiting for my partners to show up.
Yep. Well, in this case, the sergeant ends up showing up and ends up tasing the suspect as well, because that officer ended up telling him, "Hey, he already tased me. Tase him, like hit him with it."
Yeah, I think sometimes too. I mean, you know, cops may rely on tasers too much, and the reality is I mean, depending on what people are wearing, it's not going to be effective, right? Those probes have to make contact. Both probes have to make contact for it to be a full effect. So if you recognize, like, okay, this dude's wearing a hoodie or a thick shirt or jacket or whatever, like, you need to be able to think to use something else.
Well, in this case, he was already on the ground, and the officer was right on him, right next to him. I think the sergeant should have immediately ran up, and then both of them physically took control.
Go hands on with
yeah,
the guy.
At that point, there's no reason to pull a taser. There's benefits and time and place for that. But in this case, I don't think it was necessary. Just go physical and go hands on.
Yeah, he's on his back, so he's already on a position of disadvantage anyways. Yeah, like, you're two grown men, like, get on top of that guy and get control over him.
And then he ends up taking the taser, and you can watch him rotate it in his hand and grab it in a position where it's no longer effective to be used and deployed, and now he's using it as a weapon to strike the suspect.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, what do you think? I mean, essentially he's pistol whipping him with the taser, which the taser is made of plastic, but it's still going to it did cause injury to this guy's face.
Well, there are my department trains with distraction blows where it's a punch. They call it a distraction blow, but it's a punch. You make a fist and you punch somebody. You're trained to do that. And in this case, maybe they've been trained differently, or he didn't want to punch someone. Maybe his hand is already hurt, or he doesn't want to hurt his hand and he has it, and he doesn't want to, and doesn't have the capability to reholster, doesn't want to toss it. And he just makes the decision to turn around and use that to also hit the guy. I mean, I'm not really sure why you would do that, why you would spin it in your hand. It's not something I've ever seen, ever trained, and to be honest, ever heard of anybody actually doing. But he had to have had a reason.
Yeah, so I guess the question comes down to, was using the taser as a weapon an effective use of force? And, you know, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, this guy, I didn't see him doing anything at that moment in time to, I'm not going to say warrant the use of that, but I don't know. I guess using a different technique or having, like I said, the ability to use ground fighting techniques to actually gain control of this guy so that he didn't have to do that. But then I circle back to, the guy did take the taser and he did tase the officer. I mean, so now that's like, okay, well, this dude is showing definitely propensity of violence, and he's not afraid to use weapons toward the officers. What if he had access to a gun? Would he have used that against the officer? He may have.
Yeah.
I'll share a quick story with you. One time I did have to pistol whip somebody with my firearm, which is something you said way out of the ordinary. I've never been trained to do it. But my partner and I were in an area when a shooting happened, and we were right there. And so we turned the corner, and the suspect of the shooting is running down the street. At the time, he had nothing in his hands, and he goes to jump a fence into a yard. He couldn't get over. He ends up running into the front yard of this, ends up being a lady's house. And it all kind of happened simultaneously. Like, as I grab him, there's a little wrought iron fence. His stomach goes over that. I grab onto him. He reaches into his waistband. I pull out my firearm. He pulls out a gun. And I mean, seriously, all this happened at the same time. My partner is grabbing onto him, and this lady and her daughter end up walking out of the house. And the backdrop of where we were, like, the front door was right there. So me shooting at this guy or shooting at him like that became not an option. And the guy actually pulls out the gun, and he goes and he throws it like right in front of the lady as she's walking out with her daughter. And as he pulls it out, my reaction was just, I had my gun in my hand already. And so I punched him with it, which distracted him. He threw the gun, and my partner ends up pulling him off this little fence, and we were able to gain control of him. But I mean, that all happened in it was all so fast. And I mean, that was that became a lethal encounter real quick. But when she came out of the house, it was like, I had to do something else. Right. And luckily I recognized that. But I mean, so that's just like an anecdotal story of, like, you're never trained to do that stuff, but you know what? I had to do it in that moment. I look at this though, and I don't know. I mean, probably not. I don't think the cop needed to use his taser to essentially pistol whipped this dude in the face.
So in this case, we're talking about, did we believe that it were to be justified? Well, Vermont said that no, this was not justification. And in fact, they said that this officer did not have justification to stop the suspect for jaywalking, and they charged him with aggravated assault. So the officer ended up going to court for the preliminary hearing, and he pled not guilty to this. So at this point, the courts don't have an answer to if this officer is going to be found guilty or not.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know what? A lot of this boils down to, A, did he have the right to even stop him for jaywalking? Was that even legal in the first place, given where they were? And then B, the totality of everything of the arrest, the resistance of the suspect, you know, what violence did he show towards the officers? And then ultimately the fact that the officer decided to use his taser as his own weapon and hit him and strike him in the face with it. That's going to be up to him and his lawyers to bring to court to justify. And I guess we'll find out what happens, but it just goes to show, like, we talk a lot about, like, what is your confidence level? What are your capabilities? And if you're going to be out there doing these things as a cop, don't expect everything to always go your way. I mean, 9 out of 10 times it probably will, but the one time it doesn't, you know, those are the times that things are going to get you in trouble. And you gotta pay attention to that stuff and just be prepared for it.
And I think just to double down on that, it's really knowing the laws. And in this case, seeing in the overhead view, or the street view map of the jaywalking portion of this, you've really got to be confident, because regardless of how the incident ends, they're going to pull and look at everything from the very, very start of the encounter. And in this case, they found that stop wasn't even justified. So the officer believed it was, but I think that's the importance of really reading into the legal source book, knowing your laws, the vehicle code violations, and being very confident in those decisions. And if you're not quite sure, maybe pass on that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about this video, and if you think that it was justified or articulable on what the officer did. So other than that, I mean, not a whole lot more to talk about on it. It's interesting. I guess we'll find out at the end of the day, or not by the end of today, but at the end of this whole thing, what the ruling is going to be, if this guy, the officer, is going to be found guilty or not.
All right, well, leave a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, guys. Be safe.